Hello. So, welcome to our webinar today on therapeutic horticulture. Now, we have a really special subject matter expert whose passion is horticulture and care. Now, Jacqueline is from Mindful Gardening, and Jacqueline's going to tell us all about therapeutic horticulture and how we can use it and how it can benefit us, and not just us as in ourselves, especially if you work in the care industry, but also your clients, which is very important. So Jacqueline, I'm going to hand over to you. And at the end of the session, we'll have a little question and answer session. So if you've got any questions, write them down and then we can chat about them at the end. Okay, Jacqueline, over to you.
Thanks, Yvette. Thanks for having me on today and everyone for joining in. So as Yvette mentioned, my name's Jacqueline. I'm a horticulturalist. So I've worked in horticulture for about 20 years. I was lucky to start straight off the bat when I was 16 and just fell in love with the industry and the work and have stuck with it ever since. I've been really fortunate with that. So currently I'm working as a trainer in horticulture, as a trainer and assessor for Cert 2 and Cert 3 horticulture, and which has sort of led me to where we are today. There's always been a passion in my mind to do therapeutic horticulture and just to create this offering for horticulture to be used in so many settings. It's sort of taking off all around the world, you know, Europe and North America, similar to like your art therapy, equine therapy, those sorts of extra programs that can just assist people in their day-to-day life. So the idea of the therapeutic horticulture isn't goals or results driven. It's not a means to an end. It's just about improving people's livelihoods. So that's the basics of therapeutic horticulture. So it's using horticultural tasks in a day-to-day setting just to create, you know, a bit of mindfulness, a bit of flow, and just to reap all the benefits, the physical and the mental health and well-being benefits that come from doing those sorts of tasks. So they're always, or you know, they're intended to always be success-driven, so that when the participants are undertaking these tasks, they complete the task and they have all those positive benefits of achievement. So they have a sense of empowerment, they have a sense of self, their confidence grows, which, as Yvette said, it applies to everybody really. You know, the care setting is for, you know, you as carers are offering yourselves to care for people and look after people. And that comes in many different forms. And as Yvette mentioned, you've got to look after yourself as well and do the best that you can so that everybody can have enough in their cup to support others. So we're talking about the benefits. The mental health benefits are, like I said, that sense of achievement, that empowerment, that confidence, that sense of self, sort of at the end of the task. But during the task, it's about getting in that state of mindfulness and blocking out all the extra noise that, you know, the struggles that you may be facing as a carer or as a person receiving care. And they can just focus solely on that task in front of them at that time. And then you're doing that regularly, you get into that state of flow and the body takes over and your mind can just stop and relax. You know, your shoulders drop, you breathe in the fresh air, all that sort of stuff. And then obviously that leads on to so many mental health benefits. But the sense of achievement and the empowerment are huge. You know, if you've got, say, if you're being cared for, you may not have a lot of control over your life, and just being able to manage something solely on your own in a positive and productive way, that's, you know, you can see obviously the benefit of that to someone's mental well-being. And then you've got the physical benefits. So you've got your fine motor skills where, you know, you're picking up little plants or little seeds, placing things intentively. So that's a big one in aged care and for young ones as well. And then it's the major muscle groups too. So you're picking things up, you're pushing them away, you're pulling them towards you, bending down, you know, just those extra steps into your day. So I've had a little bit of experience as a care worker, and often it was just having a cup of tea, just sitting down, having a chat, providing that social connection. And I felt if you could have introduced a little bit of physical activity into that interaction, you're getting so many things ticked off in, in their needs for that period of care that you're providing. So it's the major muscle groups, but it's also getting out into the sunshine, or, even in the cold air, just the fresh air, just being outside, experiencing the environment around you, allowing them just to take a moment. What's that saying? You stop and smell the roses. So it's just stopping and looking at a tree, looking at the greenery, just absorbing all of that nature. It just helps improve you. Another benefit, obviously, is your senses. So particularly in aged care, the sense of smell is one of the last senses to go. So if you've got a rose, or just that, that vegetative smell, that soil smell, you remember that from a kid, from digging in the ground, or, picking flowers or whatever. It just triggers that memory. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a happy memory that you're brought back to with that time. And again, as a carer, just everybody loves the smell of grandma's favourite rose, or getting your hands dirty. And there is science behind it. There's certain bacteria in the soil that stimulate serotonin. But it's just basic, isn't it? Like, you get your hands dirty, you feel happy pretty quickly. So that's, I guess, therapeutic horticulture to me, what it is to me. Like I said, it is being used more and more around the world and in Australia. So there's, where I am in Victoria, there's a few programs starting. There's one at the Royal Talbot as part of the Alfred Hospital, where they have the neurological ward. So there's a beautiful garden. The Royal Children's Hospital has a beautiful garden as well set up. And that's, again, for staff and for patients. So staff can go out, have a nice lunch. I saw a really amazing one the other week in an aged care facility that was in a sort of inner city area. So it was all brick walls, but they were able to project greenery scenes onto the walls, and had water flowing and all that stuff. And just that being immersed in the green space was having huge mental health benefits for, again, staff and residents and clients. So there's so many different things you can do with it. In regards to a care setting, it really does depend, I guess, on the situation. So as for me, like I said, I did a little bit of work in home care and then also in residential aged care. So a lot of residential aged cares will have gardens on site, but obviously you're limited to the residents and what their abilities are. And the main thing is you do have to take a very individualised approach, which is standard for care. Every support worker will do that individualised approach. So you do have to focus on setting up the tasks, again, that are success driven. So if you've got an idea, you do need to look at it and think, is this going to work for this person, or do you need to be a bit adaptive and a bit flexible to suit varying needs, I suppose. Yeah, I agree, Sally. I see a lot of residents that don't have access. So that's where, again, you've sort of got to be a little bit creative. So you can use, just a small pot, a tray, obviously raised garden beds, they're costly and they can be a bit of work, but there's ways. So, going for a walk out into an open space, picking some leaves, not much for anyone to do. Yeah, I know. And then that's where, so I guess there are certain activities that can be produced. So a favourite one of mine is the nature art. So it sort of combines a bit of art therapy and a bit of therapeutic horticulture. So it's just taking snips of leaves, finding nuts, seeds, flowers, all that sort of stuff, and just creating a bit of a picture out of it. So that's a good wet weather one, and one if you've already got an established garden. But even just doing a bit of a sensory walk, a mindfulness walk, so just being in the garden and saying, what can you smell? What can you touch? What do the leaves feel like? What does the trunk of the tree feel like? Just taking that time just to really recognise that, you're so busy moving through the world, often we forget just to look and touch and feel. And then, that's therapeutic horticulture. That's what horticulture is observing plants and nature. So there's so many different things. And just chatting about gardens. So a lot of the older generation, they gardened their whole life. They grew their own veggies. They were in their gardens on the weekends. That's what they were doing. And they are so full of knowledge and facts, and that knowledge doesn't change. You know, so many other things change, and we learn new information, and you know, things develop. But how to grow a plant, it doesn't change. It's just, you know, it's like looking after a pet. It's the same theory for the last hundreds of years, and they're full of knowledge. And again, to have them be able to share that knowledge, that's empowerment. You know, that's sharing what they know, what they were good at, what they loved, in a really positive environment. You know, and there's also community gardens now, so most towns will have a community gardens. Absolutely, the ethnic backgrounds with growing food, so that's a really, really good one. And you know, they probably wouldn't look at it as horticulture. They look at it as just being resourceful and growing food, but you know, they're so practical in the way that they think. Yeah, it's just normal life. It's just the way they get food. It's not a task, but they don't realize all those extra benefits they're getting beyond growing their own food. You know, you look at them physically moving every day to go and pick that fruit. They're up and out early in the morning on a hot day watering their garden. So there's just all those add-on benefits from this day-to-day task, and it's really easy to implement. Just small things that will make a big difference. So like I said at the start, it's not about having a result. So saying, you know, by the end of this 6-week program, you're going to feel 20% happier. It's just about improving the day-to-day life and their livelihoods and your own livelihood. You know, if we can all do something every day to make us feel good and have a day filled with joy, then we're going to be happier people. Yes, planning and problem solving. That's another good one that I love as well. So, you know, I find it myself, I go out to mow the grass and you're out of petrol or the mower's not starting. You're all of a sudden, your brain's not worried about anything else. You're back to that main task and you've got to do your problem solving and planning for the future. So through COVID, I wrote a really, I thought it was beautiful, a story, a blog about looking to hope. You know, during that 2020 period, every day was, the point of the day was waiting to hear the numbers on the news, and then you would wait till the next day to hear the numbers. There was no future planning or sense of hope in anyone, and that's exactly what gardening is. You know, you plant a tiny little plant with hope that in 5 years' time it's going to be a beautiful shrub or tree even. So it's planning for the future, and for a future beyond yourself. So especially with trees and with starting new things, you know, even in the short term, I've worked with a palliative care facility, and obviously they've got life-limiting illnesses, so they're planning for something to leave behind. And if that's something planted in the ground or something they've given to their family members, it goes on and on and on, and it's that never-ending tangible thing that they've created. So I could go on about this for ages. There's just so many different aspects of it and so many ways that you can implement it, like I said.
This has been great. What's some other things you can tell us? What is some experience that you've had with a client? Like, is there a particular client or something that sticks out in your mind that you've worked with?
Yeah, so I think, like I said, a lot of my experience was from aged care. Well, I've got two actually, one at each end. The aged care was one, I was caring for an elderly German couple, and they were very much housebound. He had sort of late stage dementia and she was his carer. And so their home was their castle. And again, I was there to, you know, mop the floors and do all that stuff. And we got through all that quite quickly. And then I'd say, come on, let's go out into the garden. And everything would change. Her whole demeanor would change. And even in himself, his memory of the plants that he had planted, where he couldn't, you know, obviously dementia takes so much, but he could still hold on to those tangible memories in some instances. And she would instantly remember happy memories of creating their garden, and just being in that external space really lifted the both of them. Another more recent one was I was working at my children's primary school. So they have a few raised beds that had been quite let go. So I was doing sort of an hour a week with different classes. And there was a little boy there, non-verbal, autistic, beautiful boy. And again, the same, he put his hands in the soil and his face just lit up and he smiled and he was just listening to the instructions and doing everything. And it was just a highlight of his day. And then, you know, the teachers were saying, following on from that, his engagement in the class was 100% different. Just kids, a lot of kids do struggle with that structure of a school, and being able to break that up and provide that space for the mind to block out a bit of the external noise that they have. And again, it's just that focusing on that task at hand, and that's it. You don't need to think about anything else beyond what you're doing at that time, and then it's finished and you've got that sense of completion. So yeah, one at each end of the scale.
Yeah, no, that's good, because my next question was about children.
Yes.
Like, I think this is a great thing to implement with children, especially those with additional needs.
Absolutely.
Like you just spoke about with autism, or cognitive issues and things like that, even physical issues. Like, it's great. How would you recommend, say someone's got a physical issue, they might be in a wheelchair, for example, what's the best way to help them engage in horticulture and to, help them get involved?
Yeah. So again, it's obviously individualized approach depending on the person's limitations, but there are companies now making raised beds for wheelchair height. So there's click-clack units where you can get sort of U-shaped ones, or just individual beds. Obviously that's a cost and an investment. Otherwise you're just walking around, just having them in the garden, in the space, and just that conversation even, and if they've got the movement of their hands, you could do a tray situation where you've got just some small plants, potting up seeds, or, you get a little punnet planted out into bigger pots. So the good thing about the potting things up is, so you have that, like I talked about, the task-based focus, but the carer goes home at the end of the day and they're not back for another week, potentially another fortnight. Every day in between, they've got to get up and water the plants, or they've got to position it to get enough sun. So they're then providing care. They're the carer, which instills that sense of empowerment into their every day, not just waiting for the carer to come back and do another fun task. So it enriches their life as a whole. So it's just about raising things up to their level. Yeah, and it's still, if they're in a chair, you've still got your hands. You can still be pushing and pulling, again with your fine motor skills. So there's a lot you can do.
Yeah, no, this is such a fantastic program, and I think it's really important for people who are carers to, learn these skills to, help their participants. But it's also good for the carer, for the support worker, or
absolutely, it makes for a good shift. Yeah, if you're out and about doing enjoyable things. Yeah, and a lot of carers, a lot of people have that basic gardening knowledge, that basic horticulture knowledge. It's just about, having that thought process of, oh, well, how about we do this, because you already know, a lot of people already garden a lot at home. You don't need to have a qualification to know how to do gardening. So it's just getting that thought process into implementing it into work, if the clients are on board. Yeah.
Yeah. That's another thing. So just say, for example, you've got a client who's a bit hesitant. They could have a sensory issue where, if they feel the dirt or the sound of the leaves or something like that might trigger something. Yep. Would you still say therapeutic horticulture is a good activity for them to do? Or is there a way you can modify it? What's your thoughts around that?
I think it would be definitely something to try and modify as they go. Obviously, again, it depends on that individualized approach, but giving them that power. So saying, how does this feel? Do you like how this feels? Do you like how this sounds? Do you not like it? And just having them be able to have the power to decide. They may dislike it at the start, but actually think, oh, I didn't love it, but it's maybe not so bad if I try it again. And, the soil, it can be dry, it can be wet. It can be just going for a walk in the garden. And again, that can be very overwhelming. I understand that for a lot of people, just leaving the house. And so that's where I guess introducing greenery around the house as much as you can. Indoor plants are so easy. Flower arranging, that's another really good spin-off one as well. So you can do little bud vases. I've seen ones with like the toilet rolls, the cardboard empty toilet rolls where you just stick a few flowers in them and just look at how the colours work together. And it's just that fine motor skills of just sticking things into things, But yeah, it's sensory issues is obviously it's a challenging one, and that's where my background is 99% horticulture. I've done that little bit of care work, but it's really just horticulture. So it's just about introducing it, I suppose, for it to then be molded and developed to suit others where they can. Yeah.
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 That's
But
fantastic.
yeah, in my experience, children with the sensory limitations, they actually really love it. I think it's because it's a bit outdoors, and maybe it's a natural innate thing to know that soil is good. you know. But
Yeah.
obviously, yeah, everyone's got their own challenges that they're faced with, so it's not for everyone. Like anything, I wouldn't imagine myself doing an art therapy or horses. I don't do horses, so everyone's got their their things that they will benefit from for sure.
Yeah, I think it's great. The flower arranging, I wouldn't have even thought that would come under like the horticulture
Yeah,
umbrella.
it's
That's
really just whatever you can do. It doesn't have to be, a strict thing. It's just, I guess that's the beauty of the flexibility of the, the industry. You can just you do it however you see fit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's some really great advice. And I think it's awesome. As you said, we've got animal therapy, we've got art therapy. I think this is something that is much needed.
Yeah.
And it's great. It gets people outside. Too many people are stuck inside, doing inside things.
Yeah.
So I feel like we need to just go outside, experience nature, get our hands dirty,
Yeah.
and enjoy life in a different way, and have a different, I guess, a different experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Everything that we do ties back to being inside. Everything comes back to the computer. The kids at school are on their computers, the banking, everything is done on site now. So inside. So yeah, the more you can get out and about. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a perfect 25-degree day. If it's cold, you put a jacket on, you put a beanie on. The benefits are still the same, whether it's a sunny day or a not so sunny day. You've just got to get out there. And then it becomes a habit, and then you crave that. Once you've done it a few times, if you're going outside every day or every week even, you're craving that.
Yeah, it's actually quite funny you should say that. I've got family in New York, and I've got I've got a niece and a nephew. My niece is 7 and my nephew is 9. Now, as you know, New York can get terribly cold in winter and it snows, right? The snow does not bother them. They pop on their snow gear, their jackets, they walk to school or have a bit of outside time. It's not going to stop them from going out and enjoying themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many things. And I think I know for me, like I said, I'm in Victoria. I'm so lucky with the seasons, you can go out week to week and everything's changing. You're going through summer, obviously, and then you've got your autumn colours, the bareness in winter, the flowers coming up in spring. And that goes back to that hope, doesn't it? You plant this little bulb in the middle of winter, and then come September, you've got a beautiful daffodil. So it's just that instilling that thought process that things change, things pass, and things will always, in some way, be the same. The trees will always lose their leaves. The sun will rise and set every day. So, yeah, it's all things good.
That's true. It's like at schools when they've got community gardens. And I mean, I was a teacher in a past life, as I say. And one thing we used to love doing is taking the primary kids out. They plant something over a period of months, it grows. They then harvest the vegetables and cook something from it.
Yep.
And that's such a rewarding thing for kids. They see the growth process. They've got outside, got involved, and then reap the rewards from it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a reward for effort, isn't it? So there's the Stephanie Alexander Kitchen Garden program, which is a fantastic program. But again, it is, where we are, it's a very small school. There's only 100 kids, so they're quite limited, with funds and stuff like that. So a lot of it revolves around funding and extra finances, which is, again, a bit of a barrier with therapeutic horticulture in general. You're providing care for people who, they don't have often that extra money to go out and buy all this stuff that they needed. So it is important to think about how you can do it in very small ways to suit their needs, because you don't want it to become a stressful thing where they think, I've got to have this, I've got to have that. It could be really small, minor stuff.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be expensive as well, as you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
you know, there's parks, there's gardens, even just walking through, collecting leaves, things like that, flower arranging. I mean, you know, you go for a walk, you might be in a beautiful garden and there might be some flowers on the ground that you pick up and take home and do
Yeah.
an activity with. I think that's
Absolutely,
really
yeah.
great.
And just walking around, you know, there's all these apps now where you can be walking around and think, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. What is that? You snap a photo and it gives you information. So there's a bit of research, you know, tasks there potentially as well, where you're out and about and you say, find 3 plants that you like the look of, and we'll take them back and, you know, look into them further and see where they grow, where they come from, all that sort of thing. The other thing I really love about the growing is when you're providing care for people, I've found there's a lot of instances where they lose that self-care and they forget that, you know, they need to provide themselves with sustenance and all, you know, things
Mm.
to thrive and do well. And then so reframing that thought of, you know, if you have good soil, a good basics, and then obviously you need to add water, you need to add fertilizer, you need to add sun for the plant to grow. And then it's applying that process to yourself. You're just a living thing the same as that plant is. So you need to have a good base. You need to provide yourself with water and food and sunlight, and you'll thrive and you'll do well the same as that plant. And again, obviously everybody has their limitations, and in the mental health sector, you know, I can't even imagine the challenges that people face in that sector. But it's just a little bit of another side thing that you can sort of slide into that discussion as well. You know, if someone's thinking, oh, well, I'm struggling, to say, well, show yourself the same care and kindness that you're showing to this plant, and you'll see that reward.
That's lovely sentiment. That's a lovely thought there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, did anybody have any questions? Just type them in the little chat box and we can ask Jacqueline your questions if you have any. Jacqueline, nothing's popped up, but if anything does, we can watch it. So what do you think is next in therapeutic horticulture? Is there something that's new and emerging in the industry that we should be aware of?
I think it's just more commonality. So it's just becoming, you know, second nature in a lot of care environments. So like I talked about in the major hospitals, I know Melbourne and I know South Australia offer it as well as through their botanical gardens. Forest therapy is another one that's coming through. So that's just, or the forest bathing, sorry. So that's a Japanese-based approach where you're just immersing yourself in a forest. There's so many different things. Up near me, there's Ballarat Botanic Gardens. They've created a sensory walk. So it's been built with the sole purpose of being a sensory walk for people struggling with dementia and Alzheimer's. And again, like we talked about in schools, so just really promoting it and pushing it through schools. Another good one is even in prisons. So, you know, in the juvenile system, where the idea obviously is rehabilitation to get them restudied and to back into the workforce. So this is a really good one for that. You're giving them hands-on skills and also all those extra benefits as well to then go in and get it work. The green scripts, yeah, I've seen that one come up a little bit too. So as part of a care program, you know, you're there prescribing exercise, eating healthy, and getting out into nature and the sun. Yeah. So it's just, I mean, there's so much going on. Yeah, it's just the whole lot in general, you know, just coming out into Australia. And I know we've got, you know, the NDIS system, and we do have so many limitations, but there's no one I've spoken to has not thought this is a great thing or a great idea. You know, it just makes sense. It's just so logical, and, you know, there's no reason to go against it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Just look at the time. It's probably time we start wrapping up. But can I just say this has been an excellent topic to discuss, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to gain a lot from this today. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights on therapeutic horticulture with us.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been great. And we're going to pop this recording up on our socials and send it out to people as well. Yeah, thank you
Alex.
again so much for joining us. It's been amazing.
Oh,
I love it.
so glad. Yeah, it's been great to talk about. Like I said, I could do it for days.
You never know, there might be an opportunity soon where you will be doing this for
Yeah,
days.
thanks for
Again,
that.
yeah, again, thank you everybody for joining us today. It has been great. And I hope you all have a lovely day, and I'll speak to you soon. All right. See ya.